In 1951, a car company that had never built a racing car entered Le Mans for the first time. 9 Ferraris were waiting. 7 months earlier, the car did not exist. What happened over those 24 hours rewrote the history of British motorsport. These are 10 facts about the Jaguar C-Type that the history books tend to leave out. Number 10. The entire car was designed and built in 7 months, using broomsticks. In late 1950, Jaguar's chief engineer William Haynes got the green light from company founder William Lyons to build a purpose-built racing car for the 1951 Le Mans 24 Hours. Getting that green light was not easy. Lyons was a businessman, above everything else, careful with money and deeply aware of the history of car companies that had bankrupted themselves chasing racing glory. He had watched Bentley collapse under the weight of its own Le Mans ambitions in the early 1930s, and he had no intention of letting Jaguar follow the same path. Haynes and team manager Lofty England finally convinced him by arguing that a single Le Mans victory would generate more global publicity than any advertising campaign Jaguar could afford. Lyons agreed, reluctantly. The catch was that Jaguar had never designed a racing car before. The company did not even have a racing department. One was created from scratch under Phil Weaver, and the team went to work knowing they had roughly 7 months to go from a completely blank sheet of paper to 3 finished race-ready cars sitting on the grid at Le Mans. The engineering team used broomstick handles to map out the shape of the tubular chassis frame in 3 dimensions. They built wooden scale models and tested them in a wind tunnel. Engineers volunteered evenings and weekends without being asked because everyone at the Coventry factory understood what was riding on this project. Haynes later recalled the intensity of it. We had about 7 months to design, make, and prove a car from a clean sheet of paper and to complete 3 cars for the race. And the guiding principle behind the entire design was captured in another Haynes quote that nobody else in racing was thinking about at the time. We felt that our standard mechanical components put into a lighter chassis with a decent aerodynamic body would do the deal. Nobody was using aerodynamics. The first finished car, chassis XKC001, was not completed until mid-May 1951. Le Mans was on the 23rd of June. That left roughly 6 weeks between the car existing for the first time and racing in the biggest endurance event in the world. Number 9. The man who shaped the body was an aircraft designer who refused to be called a stylist. Malcolm Sayer had spent the Second World War at the Bristol Aeroplane Company, designing fuselages for Blenheim and Beaufighter fighter planes. He had studied aeronautics at Loughborough on the prestigious Empire Scholarship, which he won at 17, and he had developed a mathematical method of calculating aerodynamic curves using slide rules and 7-figure logarithm tables. When Sayer arrived at Jaguar in early 1951, he brought a completely different way of thinking about car design. He was not interested in what a car looked like for its own sake. He cared about how air moved over surfaces, and every curve on the C-Type was calculated to do a specific aerodynamic job. He loathed being called a stylist. "I am an aerodynamicist," he once said, "not a hairdresser." What makes this significant is that Sayer's hiring changed the trajectory of Jaguar's entire design philosophy. The C-Type body he shaped for the 1951 race became the direct ancestor of the D-Type that won Le Mans 3 more times, and then the E-Type, the car that Enzo Ferrari reportedly called the most beautiful ever made. Every one of those legendary shapes came from the same mathematical approach that Sayer brought to a small factory in Coventry from the aircraft industry. Number 8. The car was nearly 1,000 pounds lighter than the road car it was based on. In 1950, 3 Semi-Works XK120s had entered Le Mans and shown exactly what the road car could and could not do. Leslie Johnson and Bert Hadley ran as high as second before clutch failure ended their race in the 21st hour. The other 2 finished 12th and 15th. For road cars competing against purpose-built prototypes, the results were impressive, but Haynes and England had seen the limitations firsthand. The XK120's heavy steel chassis, borrowed from the Mark V saloon, was dragging the car down. The brakes faded badly in the heat, the bodywork pushed too much air instead of slipping through it. The car needed to be faster, lighter, and more aerodynamic. The C-Type used the same 3.4-litre twin-cam straight-six engine and the same Moss 4-speed manual gearbox as the XK120 road car. Mechanically, the running gear was largely the same. What changed was everything around it. The XK120's steel chassis was thrown out and replaced with a lightweight tubular frame designed by Haynes and detailed by Bob Knight. It was built from 16-gauge steel tubing with drilled channel section members and triangulated bracing. The body was hand-formed in aluminium by craftsmen working from Sayre's aerodynamic calculations. The result was a car that shed nearly 1,000 pounds compared to the steel-bodied XK120 it was derived from, and could reach 160 miles per hour, 40 faster than the road car. At Le Mans, where cars spend 24 hours accelerating, braking, and cornering, that weight saving translated directly into less strain on the brakes, less fuel consumed, and less wear on every moving part. The engine did not need to be dramatically more potent. Consulting engineer Harry Westlake tuned it to around 205 horsepower, up from 160 in the road car, using modified inlet ports, high-lift camshafts, and lighter internals. The philosophy was elegantly simple. Do not try to out-muscle the competition. Outthink them. Number 7. Jaguar kept the car secret until 6 days before the race, then drove it to Le Mans. The C-Type was developed in total secrecy. Nobody outside the factory walls knew the car existed. The press had no idea. The rival teams had no idea. Everyone in the racing world expected Jaguar to show up at Le Mans in 1951 with modified XK120 road cars, the same approach they had used the year before. The secret broke on the 20th of June, 1951, when the Motor magazine published a Jaguar press release and a single photograph. Le Mans was 6 days away. And then came the detail that would have been unthinkable for any Italian or French racing team. Instead of loading the 3 C-Types onto a transporter and shipping them to France like precious cargo, Lofty England, Jack Emerson and Phil Weaver drove them from Coventry to Le Mans under their own power, across English roads onto a ferry and down through France. England explained the thinking behind it. They wanted people to see that their cars were capable of being driven on the road. If anything was going to fall off, then by the time you had driven from Coventry to Le Mans, you would know about it. It was a statement of engineering confidence that no transporter ride could have made. Number 6. Stirling Moss was the fastest man on the track and his car still died. The field the C-Types drove into at Le Mans was the strongest the race had ever seen. 60 cars lined up for the start. 9 of those carried the prancing horse badge of Ferrari, the largest single manufacturer entry, including 4 of the new 340 Americas with 4.1-litre Lampredi V12 engines. Talbot Lago had hired Formula One drivers Juan Manuel Fangio, a man who would go on to win 5 world championships, and Jose Froilan Gonzalez. Briggs Cunningham brought 3 big American prototypes from Florida powered by 5.4-litre Chrysler Hemi engines. Aston Martin entered 3 Works DB2s, Porsche and Lancia were making their Le Mans debuts. Against all of that, Jaguar had 3 cars that had existed for 6 weeks. When the race started at 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, Moss took the lead in his C-Type almost immediately. He was 21 years old and already one of the quickest drivers in the world, and on this day, he was untouchable. Lap after lap, he lowered the existing lap record set by Louis Rosier the year before, eventually clocking a time of 4 minutes and 46.8 seconds. That was an average speed of over 169 kilometers per hour, more than 6 seconds faster than the previous best. By the end of the second hour, Moss had put an entire lap on every other car in the 60-car field. The 3 Jaguars were running first, second, and third. Sayre's aerodynamic body was doing exactly what it was designed to do. It looked like total domination. Then, just before midnight, after holding the lead for more than 7 hours, Moss's engine destroyed itself. A tiny copper delivery pipe in the oil sump had cracked from engine vibrations, starving the bearings of oil until a connecting rod broke. The same failure had already killed the Biondetti and Johnson car earlier in the evening. 2 of Jaguar's 3 entries were finished and the defect was systemic. The same fragile pipe sat inside the one surviving C-Type. Number 5. The winning drivers had to avoid certain engine speeds for 16 straight hours to keep their car alive. When word reached Peter Walker and Peter Whitehead about what had killed the other 2 C-Types, the diagnosis was terrifyingly specific. The copper oil pipe cracked because the engine vibrated at certain rev ranges. There was no way to fix it during the race. The only option was to avoid those rev ranges entirely. For the next 16 hours, through darkness, through relentless rain, through the grinding attrition of the longest race in motorsport, Walker and Whitehead drove their C-Type with a level of mechanical sympathy that borders on surgical. Every gear change, every acceleration out of a corner, every burst down the Mulsanne straight had to be calibrated to keep the engine in rev bands where the vibrations would not occur. Push too hard for even a moment, and the same copper pipe would crack, the same bearings would starve, and the same connecting rod would let go. 2 teammates had already proven exactly what that looked like. They could not chase lap times. They could not respond if another car closed in. They had to trust the process and drive the car gently enough to survive while fast enough to stay ahead. It was one of the great acts of disciplined endurance driving in the history of the sport. Number 4. Peter Walker set the fastest practice time in the dark while accidentally wearing sunglasses. This detail comes from a 1996 Motorsport magazine profile, and it sounds too good to be true. During the Wednesday practice session before the race, Peter Walker went out in his C-Type after dark and set the fastest lap of any driver, including Moss. His time was 4 minutes and 50 seconds, an average of 104 miles per hour at night on an unlit circuit in 1951. If you are finding this helpful and want more stories like this, I go through the comments on every video, so drop a thought below and consider subscribing. When someone pointed out to Walker that the Marshall fog lamps fitted to the C-Type were barely adequate for driving at that kind of speed in the dark, Walker realized he had been wearing his tinted glasses the entire time. He took them off, went back out, and immediately went faster, reportedly clocking an unofficial lap of 4 minutes and 46 seconds. Peter Walker was a farmer from Herefordshire. He was not the star of the Jaguar team. Moss was the acknowledged maestro. And yet, there was Walker accidentally outpacing everyone at Le Mans in the dark, half-blind, behind tinted lenses. Number 3. 9 Ferraris started the race. 1 finished. The 1951 Le Mans field included the biggest single manufacturer entry from Ferrari, with 9 cars carrying the prancing horse badge. 4 of them were the new 340 Americas, powered by Aurelio Lampredi's 4.1-litre V12 engines. Ferrari had won Le Mans for the first time just 2 years earlier through Luigi Cinetti's legendary solo drive, and the Italian cars arrived in France with serious expectations. The race destroyed them. Rain arrived during the first evening and stayed through the night. Some Ferraris failed mechanically, others crashed on the greasy surface. Even the Talbots with their hired Argentine stars could not survive. The Fangio and Rosier car, with a man who would go on to win 5 Formula One World Championships behind the wheel, retired when its oil tank split. The Gonzalez and Marimon Talbot held second for a while, but retired with a blown head gasket at the halfway mark. Eddie Hall's Ferrari 340 ran as high as third during the darkness, but eventually went out with a dead battery. One by one, every Ferrari except one dropped out. Cinetti's own 340 America, entered under his name as a privateer, was the sole survivor, limping home in 8th place. Meanwhile, the green Jaguar of Walker and Whitehead, The car that nobody had known existed a week before the race crossed the finish line after 267 laps. They had covered 2,243 miles at an average speed of 93.5 miles per hour, and they finished 9 laps clear of the second-placed Talbot Lago. A car built in 7 months by a company with no racing experience had beaten 9 Ferraris at their own game. Lofty England summed up what the victory meant for Jaguar as a company. "As soon as we won Le Mans," he said, "people knew what a Jaguar was, and the name went forward very quickly." Sales of Jaguar road cars surged. Export orders poured in from America. The entire identity of the company shifted overnight. Number 2. Jaguar came back the next year, and all 3 cars failed catastrophically. The 1951 victory could have been the beginning of a dynasty. Instead, 1952 was a disaster. Alarmed by reports that the new Mercedes-Benz 300 SL would be the car to beat at Le Mans, Jaguar modified the C-Type's bodywork to reduce aerodynamic drag and increase top speed. The changes involved altering the nose profile and rearranging the cooling system. It went badly wrong. The modified cooling system could not cope with the demands of racing, and all 3 C-Types overheated catastrophically. Every single Jaguar retired from the race. The victory of the previous year, the global headlines, the surge in sales, all of it was overshadowed by a complete engineering failure that Jaguar had inflicted on itself. It was the kind of setback that could have ended the racing program entirely, and it proved that the C-Type's 1951 success was not a blank check for complacency. What happened next, though, turned the setback into the most important moment in the car's history. Number 1. The C-Type introduced disc brakes to Le Mans and changed motorsport forever. After the humiliation of 1952, Jaguar went back to the drawing board. The aerodynamic changes were reversed, the cooling system was fixed, and then the engineers did something that would leave a mark on every racing car, and eventually every road car, built from that point forward. Working with Dunlop, Jaguar fitted the 1953 C-Type with disc brakes on all 4 wheels. The technology came directly from the aircraft industry, where disc brakes had been used to stop planes on landing. Adapting them for a car that would be braking from 150 miles per hour into tight corners, lap after lap, for 24 consecutive hours was something nobody had attempted at this level of competition. The advantage was devastating. Every other car at the 1953 Le Mans, including the Ferraris with their 4.1-litre V12 engines and the Alfa Romeos with their new 3.5-litre 6-cylinder engines, was still using drum brakes. Drums work well enough when they are cool. The problem is that they fade as they heat up, and at Le Mans, they heat up constantly. After a handful of hard laps, the pedal goes soft, the stopping distances grow, and drivers have to brake earlier and earlier just to make the corners safely. Over 24 hours, that fade compounds into minutes of lost time. The Jaguar drivers had none of those problems. They could brake later, brake harder, and do it lap after lap without the pedal ever going soft. On a circuit where cars spend the entire race flinging themselves from blistering speed down to a crawl for the corners, then accelerating back to top speed on the straights. That was an enormous advantage. The Jaguar drivers could carry their speed deeper into every braking zone than the car ahead of them, saving time at every corner and saving their machinery while they did it. The result was total domination. Duncan Hamilton and Tony Rolt won the race. The second Jaguar finished second. The third completed the top 4. Jaguar took the team prize. It was the most comprehensive Le Mans victory in years. The Ferraris had brought bigger engines. The Alfa Romeos had brought a beautiful new car. None of it mattered because the British team had found a way to go faster by stopping better, and that is a competitive advantage that compounds over 24 hours until the gap is unbridgeable. The disc brakes had turned a competitive car into an untouchable one. Within a few years, every serious racing car in the world had switched to disc brakes. Within 2 decades, so had virtually every road car on the planet. The technology that Jaguar and Dunlop bolted onto a C-Type in 1953 is now underneath your car right now. That is the C-Type's real legacy. Not just a Le Mans winner, but a car that changed the way every car on Earth slows down. Only 53 C-Types were ever built. Today, a genuine example sells at auction for millions. In 2015, an ex-Ecurie Ecos lightweight C-Type fetched $13.2 million at Monterey. The car that Jaguar sold to privateers for £1,500 in 1953 is now worth more than most streets. From the C-Type came the D-Type, which won Le Mans 3 more times. From the D-Type came the E-Type. Every curve on every one of those cars traces back to Malcolm Sayers' slide rule and the 7 months in Coventry when a company that had never built a racing car decided to build the best one in the world. If you found this video helpful, consider subscribing, and we will see you in the next one.